Hey everybody, Midnight Chapter Dark. Happy Monday! Woohoo! Yeah. I'm of course your narrator, Mr. Rob Robot Shlomo. Coming to you from Shabby Root Studios. With me as always Mr. Tom Connors.
Good evening.
Yes. And with us, as always, is the effervescent, vivacious, and ebullient Miss Mecca Random.
I still feel like I should be like in a Perrier bottle or something if I'm effervescent.
No, you gotta put on. You gotta be like the Crystal Rock girl. You know, you ever see that ad? Where she's
kind
like
of
naked on a rock in a lake. So yeah, so that's what you gotta do. If you're from the East Coast, you know what Crystal Rock soda is. And with us is Mr. Tyler Bioshock Rodriguez, no relation to Bender.
No, he's not on speaking terms with me. I'm better known as the nephew of that vivacious aunt that everyone seems to like for some reason.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's going with.
I know which one it is.
Giggity, 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 giggity.
So, all right, okay. All right, that's enough of that. Yeah.
Well, we got some sad.
How's everybody doing? Hope you. Yes, it's not all peaches and cream this Monday. So, we've had two losses, didn't we?
Yeah, two big names from the '90s, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. Even though one of them I said, who's that guy? So
yeah, well, you would be referring to the lead singer of The Prodigy, of course.
The Prodigy?
Yeah, I guess that's what they're called, The Prodigy. Which they only had like 2 hits here stateside that I remember, but they were huge overseas.
Yeah, they were huge in the whole UK club scene.
Mm-hmm. Well, don't play any of their music because.
Well, I was going to say the only 2 hits they had here were Firestarter and Smack My Bitch Up, and the latter of the 2 was more famous probably for the controversy than anything. But yeah, Keith Flint, who was the lead singer of the group, he passed away. Also, you got news that Luke Perry has passed away as well, star of 90210. Ironically, I just watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer not too long ago, which is weird. I'm sure it's related, but yeah, he had a really bad stroke last week and was hospitalized and unfortunately did not make it. I think he was only 52. Is that what it was?
Yep.
52. Yeah. 52. Not old by any standard these days.
No, that's super young.
Think about it a second. Yeah, think about it now. I mean, you'd see pictures of like Shoeless Joe Jackson or Ty Cobb. Shoeless Joe Jackson here, pictured at age 23, and he looks like he's 100. Now people are 52. Like, wow, he looks really good. And it's, man, let me tell you, things have changed, So, but Luke Perry, Sideshow Luke Perry, actually, as he was known on The Simpsons.
I was watching that episode.
I hate to think that's going to be the
brother. Yeah,
I hate to think that. Yeah, I hate to think that's going to be his lasting legacy, but
oh no, 902.
At the very least, he's.
Well, they were just rebooted again with all the original cast and stuff involved, and which is sad. And he'd been on a show here for the last few years, Riverdale, and so it's not like he's been out of work. He's
handsome guy.
Oh yeah, he was always the rugged bad boy type from 90210. But he's one of those actors I don't ever remember hearing anything bad about ever. I don't ever remember him having a scandal or anything like that.
Never has a scandal. Nobody ever really said a bad word about him. Kept his nose clean. Really, I mean, really sad. Really sad. This guy. We're gonna.
Mecca, you were a teenager in the '90s. I'm sure Luke Perry meant a thing or two to you.
I only remember him in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I haven't seen that in like 30 years, to be honest. No, I was absolutely the right age for 90210. I did not watch 90210 at all. I was watching like Friday the 13th, the series. But no, it does. It sucks. So, like when you start to feel old, when all these people from like your time start going, like, yeah.
So, Tyler, you're a little younger, so I'm assuming what you know of Luke Perry has been most of his latter-day work here.
Yeah, most of his latter day work stuff. Obviously, The Simpsons. I've seen a few episodes of 90210 in between and back and all around. And I have seen him on Riverdale. He was good. The show, not so much, but he's good.
Yeah.
He was never an actor that I knew a whole lot about, but I always knew him as like, oh yeah, it's that guy. I'm happy to see him.
Yeah.
And
people knew of him one way or the other. Yeah. It's too bad it's when somebody this young goes, and it's just like Mecca says, it makes you think, especially when you're getting closer to that age and everything like that yourself. So not that much older than I thought. He was a little older than that, but I guess not. So all right. So what do you say we move on to some entertainment news? Did you guys watch the what'd you guys say?
Well, should we say before we go on, we're waiting on a special guest, or
we have a possible special guest who might show up, so we're kind of waiting on the Star Trek news. So yeah, we're going to kind of push that off a little bit. So in case anybody's wondering why we're not going to start off with that, which we normally would, that's the case. So all right, let's talk Shazam. What do you say, Rob?
Shazam! Yes. Cool. Okay, do I look any different?
Little buff.
Oh, okay. Well, hold on. Let me try it again. Shazam!
I think you went the opposite way now.
Damn it! I'm smoking here, man. From that, jeez. Ugh.
Yeah, we also call him the captain. Sorry,
I'm not gonna get used to that, man. So secondhand smoke is bad for you. What about what? Anything this is gonna do anything to me?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna say that it's the Captain Marvel that people are actually kind of looking forward to.
Yeah, I know, right?
Rob is more like Captain Morgan, so I don't know about that.
I'm more like Captain Moron. Are you kidding me? Jesus, dude, don't give me. You're giving me a little too much credit.
But we got a new Shazam trailer today, a full-fledged second trailer.
Yes, we did. We got a new Shazam trailer. So I'm playing that for all it's worth. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. So Mecca, you just did a reaction video to it, did you not?
Yeah, it looks good. It looks fun. It kind of looks like a late 90s sort of movie, like or late 80s rather, late 80s, early 90s sort of thing. It's well lit. It looks fun. It kind of reminds me of no, seriously, that's all it takes for me now. It just look fun. No, it looks like if I were 10 years old, it would be absolutely like the biggest movie of the summer for me, or whatever, or spring, I guess, since summer movies come out in April now. No, it looks fun. It looks entertaining. It looks enjoyable. Zachary Levi has some charisma. I don't cringe every time he's on screen. I mean, it's a little cheesy, but it's a comic book movie. That's kind of what I kind of imagine a comic book movie to be.
Really, the movie that's not Marvel is from a different era. Sony's doing like the weird, gritty 2000s era comic book movies, and now DC's doing the fun, kind of dumb, but still kind of great movies from the 80s.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Well, DC did it. DC did it the other way for far too long. The dark and gritty movies, and you know what? And I was saying for God knows how long that's going to wear the audience out, and it did. It did. And now let's try something different. And so, which is why we have now Shazam! Okay. So, okay. We're gonna beat that to death. So
you've also been demonetized for some reason.
Oh, come on.
So Rob, what did you think of the trailer?
I thought it was good. I liked it. Yeah. It's got the right mix of goofiness and the right mix, and it's a fun kind of movie. It looks like it's gonna be a lot of fun.
I thought you were done. Tyler, what do you think?
Oh, I liked it a lot. I always forget how charismatic Zachary Levi is, or Levy, or whatever. But I liked him a lot in this trailer. It's goofy, it's fun. It just plays up the premise. It's like, yeah, you know what's gonna be. You have at it. I'm okay with that.
Any relation to Eugene Levy?
No, but I wish he was in there.
So you're a superhero, huh? Interesting. Anyway, I thought this was the best trailer we've gotten so far. I actually am interested in it now. I kind of had a mild interest in it before, but after this trailer, I'm like, this looks fucking good. I get it. It's the whole big thing, but it looks really good.
Yeah, but sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes you just need a fun movie that isn't really there to teach you a whole lot of lessons, just there to entertain you.
So Aquaman?
And that's, yeah, like Aquaman. Only Zachary Levi's isn't nearly as pretty.
Sorry, he was angry because Amber Heard was basically you on screen.
When he threw Batman at him. Like, Batman. Here, get him, Batman.
Okay, that was great. That was my favorite part of the whole trailer, actually. Especially if you pause in the background, you can clearly see there's a place set called Batman v Superman.
And I hope to God that they do not show all the best parts in the trailer in this one, because that would be really sucky if you get to the movie and that's all the best parts. But I have hope. This is a premise that has a lot of humor to mind, I can tell from this trailer. So I think it's going to be good. I really do.
Me too.
Well, unfortunately, that's what they do when they cut a trailer. They have a test screening, and then they, make notes of which parts the audience reacts strongest to, and then they cut a trailer with those parts. And unfortunately, they, and a lot of times what they'll do now is they'll give away the entire movie because they figure audiences want to know what's coming. But I want to be surprised. I am. Before anyone says mystery box. No, there's a difference between wanting to not spoil a movie and mystery box. Okay, so yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. So yeah, this really wasn't on my radar, but I think I'm thinking I got to go see this. Anybody?
Yeah, it looks all right.
Anyway.
It looks all right. I actually want to see that. I'm dreading seeing Captain Marvel.
I'm not dreading it, but I'm like, I definitely have the other Captain Marvel higher on my list, which God, I never thought I'd say that a year ago.
We were very impartial to Shazam, though, recently. So that does bear mentioning. Like, we've all been just kind of, meh, it looks like a rip-off of Pig.
I have a sneak peek of the Captain Marvel soundtrack. Okay, ready?
I am woman, hear me roll in numbers too big to ignore.
Okay, that's it. That's enough. Okay, yeah, I just want to squeeze that one in. Lame joke, I know, but hey, Mark C, $5 super chat. All right. Let's see. Is it me or was that Kevin Conroy's voice as the Batman doll in the Shazam trailer?
Somebody said it was in the chat, so I'm not 100% sure. But if it
Ben Affleck's voice.
Don't know. I only saw the trailer once. I'll have to go back and watch it again.
Maybe. I need to check it again too. Though I wonder still if this movie's going to have the Superman cameo that was, tweaked around a bit.
That is a good question. I think so, though. It's still supposed to be technically within the DC universe, even though we did get a recent report that they are supposed to be getting away from that.
Yeah, I hadn't heard anything like that.
Well, they just did a recent report that they're talking about getting away from the DC universe and doing more individual films. And that does kind of make sense if Ben Affleck's gone, if Cavill's gone, if Leto's gone. Your big heavy hitters are pretty much gone besides Margot Robbie. So,
well, really, she's the only one anyone wants to look at anyway, right?
Gal Gadot.
Well, yeah,
I loved Ben Affleck as Batman, but they've been jerking the shits around so long. I can understand between his personal issues and everything why he just wanted to get away from it all.
Oh yeah, I liked him for what he could do in BVS, but I'm like, they never gave him enough material.
Pretty
Batman's
much.
not. I don't want to say Batman's a hard character to write, but you gotta have the right people writing Batman. So, but they Batman could easily be screwed up in the wrong hands. Anyway, so.
Oh, of course. You got to get a good director like Joel Schumacher to handle Batman.
But he did
Well,
Lost
you know,
Boys.
at least Joel Schumacher, at least he knew he screwed up and he apologized for it.
Yes.
Yeah. And he wanted to fix things too. So that's the other thing.
Yeah, that's back before they just started blaming the fans and calling us trolls and every other damn thing.
Does he still make movies?
Who?
Schumacher. I can't remember the last time he made anything.
I think so. I think he just made something here. Let me look.
Did he?
Mm-hmm. Maybe, I don't know.
I wonder how they market that. From the director of Phone Booth and not Batman and Robin. We're not going to talk about that.
Phone Booth? Was that the one with Colin Farrell or
yes,
whatever his name's? Yeah,
he worked on House of Cards.
Huh.
He did. He hasn't worked in a few years. But his biggest recent movie would have been that Phantom of the Opera movie from 2004.
Oh, that was terrible.
That
was old Gerard Butler.
Yeah.
I'm glad I skipped that one. It did not look good.
But it looked like we had quite a few movies there in the early 2000s that were probably expensive, but it didn't make a lot of money. Like 8mm, Bad Company, Phone Booth, you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Phantom of the Opera did well, but that was probably his last hit. Well, it was like destined. There was no way it wasn't.
Like, you know, the quickest way to tell if a movie's going to be shitty nowadays is Gerard Butler starring? Well, then skip it.
No, I'd say how many articles are out there attacking the fans. That's how bad a movie's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, by like, when was the last time Gerard Butler was legitimately starring in a movie that was good?
I saw one time Gerard Butler. What was it? Olympus Has Fallen, or I think.
Yeah, that was
it. Yeah, but it was released around 4th of July or something like that, and Gerard Butler is on Comedy Central promoting the movie. And was that a Paramount movie?
I think.
Well, that's why he would be on Comedy Central promoting it, because it's a Viacom. We lost Mecca because it's a Viacom company, and he's standing in front of an American flag and he's speaking in the thickest Scottish accent he can muster. Hey, go see my new movie on the 4th of July. Yeah, do yourself a favor as an American and go see my movie, yo wanker. Man, I'm like, yeah, I didn't know Scotland was the 51st state of the United States of America. Jeez. Like, how freaking ridiculous is this? I mean, there's no forethought into that promotion.
It's weird. That came out was it the same week, or it came out the same time as another movie that had the exact same premise called White House Down. It was literally the same thing of like what was it? Dante's Peak and Volcano.
It's Die Hard in the White House.
Yeah, that's it. I can't believe two people did it at the exact same time.
What
DreamWorks all the time in Hollywood.
Was it DreamWorks and Disney used to get into that?
Bugs and
well, that was because Katzenberg, who used to work for Disney, and then he went over to DreamWorks and he took all the ideas they were doing at Disney and
if I remember the story, because I remember this is on, I think, one of the documentaries I have, that Lasseter was still kind of friendly with Katzenberg because he felt he got screwed over by Eisner, so he used to visit him all the time. And then Katzenberg once said, "What are you working on, John?" And he went, "I'm working on a movie about some bugs." And he went, "Oh, that's really interesting. I'll get back to you." And then a couple months later, he said, "I'm making a movie about bugs."
I honestly think a lot of those things were already in production when Katzenberg was there. That's why.
Deep Impact and Armageddon, though.
Exactly. It was all planned out that way. It was like, okay, you're going to do that. Well, we're going to do one bigger, because Katzenberg was actually one of the people who was responsible for Disney getting their balls back in the 90s with like Little Mermaid and Lion King and all that shit. Because during the 80s, that whole
Katzenberg had some really terrible ideas for the Little Mermaid.
He did have terrible ideas, but he was
as a whole, when it came to like general ideas, he was actually pretty good. But when he got down to specifics, he was always the worst. Like, make Toy Story a dark and gritty story about capitalism, or let's cut out several songs from Little Mermaid because 5-year-olds didn't care for it.
Well, and that's just it. He went over to DreamWorks, did his own thing, and it happened to work out for him over there. They kind of struggled at first, but once they got Prince of Egypt, it was no looking back after that, basically. But like, I even enjoyed Road to El Dorado and stuff like that.
I love Road to El Dorado. I love that movie. I'm trying to remember. I think there was actually something about Prince of Egypt and Bug's Life. I believe that was he also made a message to Lasseter saying, you know what, I'll cancel that Bug movie if you make sure that Bug's Life doesn't come out like similar to damn, I'm rephrasing that. Like it was something about the release date of Prince of Egypt like being close to a Pixar movie that he wanted to push back, and Lasseter told him to piss off. So Bug's Life dance happened.
How do we get onto this discussion?
How do we get here?
I don't know, Shazam and Captain Marvel.
Oh, it was Olympus Have Fallen, and then those two movies, and then the Katzenberg last. Okay, yeah, that was it.
Okay,
yeah, because the whole DreamWorks versus Disney thing. Yeah, we went on a tangent.
I know Olympus Have Fallen has a sequel. Sorry,
I was going to say it all comes back to Joel Schumacher. Yep.
Last thing I mentioned on the subject, I know Olympus Has Fallen had a sequel that's called London Has Fallen, and I can already just imagine the executives running with that name.
Aren't they doing another one too?
Are they? I know the second one was like one of the most reviled movies of like 2016.
I could have swore I heard something about they were doing another one, but anyway.
No. Angel Has Fallen. Yeah, it's coming out in August.
Boy.
Mark C coming through like a trooper with another super chat.
Yes. Mark C, $5. Jeffrey Katzenberg, the man who brought you Star Trek the motion picture. Well,
yeah.
Well, you know how you can't argue with the point. You go, well, yeah.
Well, I believe he was the one in that famous meeting that stepped up and said, when they said, "What is this? What do we got like this Star Wars thing?" He's like, "Well, we do have Star Trek." I think he was that guy.
I think he was as well.
Well, speaking of Star Trek news, we still don't have any confirmation on our guests, do we?
Not yet. Let me double check again.
Okay, let's take a look at this more.
Do we have to talk about Star Trek?
Well, not unless we have to, but actually we got. I saw a thing, and I don't know if are we all PlayStation 4 owners?
Xbox.
I am.
Okay, well, Mecca is, Tom is, I am, and I saw somebody in the chat. Actually, there's been reports that, and let me just time index this while we're, at 22:26. There's been reports that Anthem for PS4 has been crashing systems. A few people, I've seen a couple of videos on YouTube. I've seen some things in the various gaming websites. BioWare has released a statement. I'm taking a look. This, I'd like to cover more gaming stuff, but you know what? It's how much.
Well, yeah,
I would too.
They're already for that too.
There's not a day that goes by I don't read like some sort of gaming article from a couple sources.
Well, EA has. Am I mic turned on? Yeah, it is. EA has released a tweet. He says, "We are aware of the crashing issue. Some of you have been reporting for Anthem. We're investigating and ask you share your crash data reports when prompted. If you have, we'll be reaching out to gather further info. If not, please reply to this thread on Anthem HQ." So there's people have been reporting that this is actually crashing consoles. Listen, I was reading like a few years ago, there were a lot of people who still think that that video games are made by guys who toil in, quiet and lonely desperation, to bring games to the great unwashed masses. No,
well, they kind of do now, but it's not because by choice. It's because the game companies force them to work 12-hour days and
with no unions.
No unions, bad work. Not
actually,
bad.
12, actually, more than 12, I should say.
Long hours. Crunch time is really bad.
Yeah, deadlines. Well, they try. It's called a deadline, but like I said, a lot of companies leave. A lot of companies leave a lot to be desired. And these guys are mostly contract workers. They come in and they finish a project and they jump ship and they go work for someone else. There's no stability, not a lot of stability. But at the same time, listen, I don't have the game. I only learned about the game maybe a week or two ago. At the very least, give them a chance to fix it. A lot of people, why would they release a game that they know is going to crash a console? Well, you could test for something in a lab, but once it gets out into the wild, you have no idea how it's going to react. That's the other thing.
I've been following this game for quite a while. It's had a lot of release date pushback, and I think parts of it might have been rushed.
Oh, EA rushing a game? That's unheard of.
Yeah, no.
No.
First.
But if you want to talk about job stability, this game is going to make a lot of people's jobs very unstable because it's not really a secret that BioWare has been in really bad shape for the last couple of years, and I think they flat out said if this game flops, the company dies.
Nice. We did miss a super chat.
We did. Damn it.
Earlier. I think after any Batman script, Denny O'Neil needs to be paid to do a Batman dialogue pass. Sure.
Yeah, sure. Why not? So, but while we're on video games, everybody playing something interesting? Or
I don't play. I don't have time to play it. I have it, but I use it more just to watch YouTube and stuff than anything in Blu-ray.
I'm in the middle of a replay session of the game that's tied for my all-time favorite video game, which was the Telltale Walking Dead series, because I believe the last episode of the last season, because the company died a couple months back, has been a few weeks. That first season was really, really good. They really know how to write games back in 2012.
Yes, the halcyon days of 2012. So long ago.
Yeah, Becca, you've been playing Mario Kart lately or something?
Yeah, I've just been playing a little Mario Kart at night just to kind of unwind.
Mario Kart.
Yeah, that's on Switch. I've been meaning to go back in and play Red Dead, but.
Oh, I guess the other thing I've been playing is there's a Paradox Grand Strategy game on Steam called Crusader Kings 2 that if I ever want time to just fly by, I just play that.
Yeah. Eric Kelly says we should try Yakuza for PS4.
Oh, I know that series. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I have to get a Kerbal Space Program. Oh God, Kerbal's. Does anybody know?
It's hard.
Yes,
I've played that.
that.
It's hard as shit.
That sounds like a game that I would really like. Because I really like these kind of like hard games that are that are really intricate, and the whole idea of blasting these little fuckers into space.
But they're so cute. I built my little rocket and it went up and then it crashed sideways and they all died and I was so sad.
You feel like the North Korean space program.
It's sad. They're so cute too. They're like trying their best. They're so stupid, and there's these little guys called they're the Kerbal little species. They're always little green. They look like green minions, and they're so cute.
To answer your question, Patrick Ollinger, no, I never played Guitar Hero. I'm heavily considering playing the Beatles Rock Band game though.
I played Guitar Hero, but I liked Rock Band more. They had more.
See, I like Guitar Hero better because I like the songs in that better than in Rock Band.
Also, couldn't you make your character take off her top?
I don't know.
I played Rock Band. I got the Beatles Rock Band. Then I went out. I got Rock Band 2. I bought all the DLC actually for the Beatles Rock Band, which you cannot access anymore.
Which is why I'm a bit angry about that, because for some reason they only have part of the Beatles medley. Like apparently they only have Mean Mustard and Royal Her Majesty. They don't have the full song.
Bummer. But there was I quit playing Rock Band 2 because I was tired. There was a couple songs I was tired of playing, and actually I did download "Give Me Some Money" by Spinal Tap or the Thamesmen.
That was in there.
Oh yeah. Stop wasting my time. You know what I want.
Yeah,
they have Stonehenge. I might buy that right now, actually.
Yeah, my problem with Guitar Hero is that like anything I could play for real, I just could not play in Guitar Hero because instead of like the every third fret, it would be every other fret or every second fret. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. I don't know if you guys would in chat, but like if you're trying to do a power chord,
guitar player, yeah,
if you're a real guitar player, it sucks. It's really, really hard. You have to unlearn guitar. That's my biggest problem.
Oh, damn it! I was gonna mention that right now. That was the best use of Guitar Hero. Was the one where it's like you never get to catch the dragon.
Yeah. The tail.
I just always thought it was funny that his dad kept coming in like, I can play that for real, and he starts playing it on the real guitar, and they're just like so ambivalent to it. It's like,
Yeah.
Dad, what are you doing? Real guitars are for old people.
That's kind of how we're at though now. Like real Star Trek's for old people. Real Star Trek's for old people. We want this new Star Trek that we can just text and turn our brain off and watch.
I don't even think it's, like I said, when we get to it, I don't even think it's. I got some thoughts on that, and I'll share those in a few minutes if we, like I said, when we get the when Tom gives us the all clear. To talk about it.
I don't know. We'll just keep going forward. One thing just to switch gears real quick. Bloody Disgusting's reporting on it, even though it's not news. It's been old news, and it's trending because of it. But we just recently talked about the Critters series being picked up at Shudder because it was originally meant for what was it, something A09 or whatever thing that got shut down. Well, Shudder picked up the series, the Critters series, but we also reported a while back that Sci-Fi picked up an option on a Critters movie and a Killer Clowns movie, and they finished filming the Critters movie. And so Bloody Disgusting made it a big deal, like it was announcing this. It's not new news, but the only thing that's new news in it is that it's done filming and that Dee Wallace may be in it. They can't confirm that, though.
Ooh.
So, but that was just because they were shooting in South Africa, and she was recently in South Africa as well. So the timing is impeccable. I wish they would have got Scott Grimes back. Damn it!
All right, Emmett Walsh. God damn it, bring back Emmett Walsh.
Yeah, Scott Grimes was the kid, right? He's one of the kids in.
Yeah.
The first two movies, yes.
Well, he's too busy being on a good show.
Yeah, I saw a thing today. Actually, there's a video of movies with scenes you'll never see, deleted scenes you'll never see, and one of them was the deleted scene. Apparently, they shot for E.T. with Dee Wallace on the bed. Have you ever heard about that?
Yeah, I heard about it. They deleted it because it got a little too risque. Yeah.
What happened in this scene? I've actually never heard this.
Well, what happened was they filmed a scene where Elliot is, it's for the freaking alien is there in the house, and Dee Wallace, and it's at nighttime, and
wasn't it Halloween night or whatever when she was drunk?
Oh, yeah, I think it was Halloween night. Yeah, she had was she drunk Halloween night?
Yeah, because she'd been drinking earlier in the evening. Yeah. And that's why they cut out the scene with her driving, but it was for some reason in the 20th anniversary edition.
Oh, yeah, because she went to a party or something. She was dressed as a cat.
She was waiting around for the kids and drinking wine, I think it was.
It's when E.T. dressed up as a Klansman.
But he takes E.T. into the woods, so that timeline doesn't make sense on that.
Unless it was earlier in the movie. It could have been that the day she came home after he got in trouble. I can't remember. I know the scene you're talking about, but I can't remember the chronology.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the scene is that she's sleeping in the bed and she's topless or nude or whatever, and E.T. comes in the bed, just watches her sleep for a couple minutes, and she gets up and goes to the bathroom or what, and he leaves Reese's Pieces on her pillow. And
yeah.
And it's kind of, looking at it now, it's kind of an innocent kind of scene, and but I imagine in the 80s, there's kind of a creepitude to it. So creepitude, is that it? Is a word. It's a word now.
You made it a word now, Rob. It's a word now. So the creepitude was
old man Spielberg wouldn't do a scene like that now.
Who said it that Kate Capshaw was they hated Cape Capshaw when it was who the fuck said that?
Wasn't it Ford?
When Kate Capshaw married Steven Spielberg, that's when she became like the Yoko Ono of his Yoko Ono.
I thought you were going to mention the scene where apparently she's afraid of bugs, and that they intentionally put that scene because they put all the bugs on her in Temple of Doom because they didn't like her.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, that was the whole rumors that nobody liked her, and the only reason she got the job was because Steve wanted to nail her.
Yeah. All right. What else? Are you sure that isn't the ET porno spoof? No.
Oh no, that thing.
No, that's
no.
Eddie Torres, the extra testicle. It is Dee Wallace, yeah.
Richie Poole, a little sex. Wasn't that the movie with Kate Capshaw as a lesbian? I know that was one of the movies she was in the 2000s.
I think so.
It wasn't that great. I just remember it as like I wonder if Spielberg's watching this. That's about all I remember.
Or his Mexican equivalent, Senor Spielbergo.
Oh, God. If we get into Spielberg, I have to mention his freaking rant about Netflix and how Mr. Spielbergo probably would disagree with him on that.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, his whole thing about, I'm so happy that Roma didn't win Best Picture because Netflix doesn't deserve to be at the Oscars, blah, 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 blah. Old man yells at cloud.
See, here you go. See. There you go. See, that's there's the yeah, well, there's Senor Spielbergo, there's D. Wallace. This is an outtake, obviously he's got what the hell's he got in his hand there?
I don't know.
Remote control for ET, probably.
Or is it like a lighting gauge, maybe?
Could be like a remote control. They used to use RC controls to control like the
light stuff. Yeah.
And ET is much more of a puppet than he was anything, but yeah.
Yeah, and she was kind of hot, actually, D. Wallace.
She was an 80s mom. She was everyone's mom.
I'll say she was like
the every mom.
She was in the Skateboard Kid. She was in Critter. She was in Cujo. She was in this.
Okay, hold on, let me see. Okay, stop screen sharing. There's actually a picture of with E.T. Hold on. There's actually a picture of E.T. standing over her, which is kind of...
It better not be porn. Make sure it's not the porn version.
It's not the porn version, Mecca. Even though.
It's Nuki. What do you expect?
Copyright 1983 Eddie Torres Productions. Yes, it is.
Okay, there's actually... Okay, I found the production still. Well, okay, it's late. Okay, it doesn't help that E.T. looks drunk in this, though.
Was it after he got drunk?
That could have been. I knew somebody was drunk. Maybe it was the day E.T. got drunk. That's why.
Yeah.
Well, that's a little bit worse then.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Yeah, because I think he was wearing that. Yeah.
The expression does not help the context.
Yeah. He's got a robe on, like he's freaking Hugh Hefner.
He's like weighing his options. He's probably like, well, the chances of me actually knocking her up are pretty slim.
It's like Animal House. He's like listening, looking on his shoulder. It's like, do not.
No, he's like Blutarsky with on the ladder. Yeah. But this, well, who knows if this footage actually exists anymore? But I mean,
what's with all that quicksand porn, Rob? Look at all those tabs.
E.T. deleted scene. Well, it's just like that. There you go. See, starts.
I think they talk about it in the making of, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the scene itself has ever surfaced, though.
It's Brian Spielberg's vault somewhere.
Yeah, probably. He probably gets, So, all right.
You know what he's into.
Spielberg?
Kathleen Kennedy probably said it had to go.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
That's the movie where she famously yelled at him for being too hard on the crew.
Oh. he's probably yeah.
Yeah, she went up to now, Spielberg, you know that this scene probably implies there's a relationship between E.T. and the mother, and we just can't have that for the younger audience.
Elliot, stepson.
So, yeah. Oh, for God's sakes.
All right, well, I don't know if he's going to show, so why don't we just start talking some Star Trek and then...
Yeah, if he shows,
because the more we talk about Star Trek, the more it makes people remember Star Trek exists. We have to go on radio silence about it and pretend, and we just have to shun it. We have to never mention it, never to speak of it, and take away all of its power, right?
Right.
This isn't Freddy. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, but I would welcome Freddy on top instead of Discovery.
Yeah, because he'll kill you with an amusing pun.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, this show ain't on prime time, bitch.
Awesome. That would be awesome if Freddy got in the mycelial network.
Oh, I would watch it then.
When Freddy Krueger met Sumner Redstone.
And what if Freddy Krueger had burst out of the Dr. Culber? That would have been great. Surprise, bitch! And he comes out as Stamets.
Naturally, recapturing this fugitive is our top priority.
Yes, let's rewrite Star Trek Discovery and make Freddy Krueger the hero. I mean villain.
Tilly.
So we got our first casting news. First solid casting news.
Is it Robert Englund?
No,
no, it's not Robert.
Damn it.
We wish.
So someone told me this. She was on not Walking Dead. She was on something. I don't know.
Oh, not another Walking Dead person.
It's kind of a Mikey Spock 2.0.
Not another Mikey Spock.
Well, at least by
okay.
I can't.
Santiago, a guy by the name of Santiago Cabrera. Never heard of him. And Michelle Hurd. Look up their acting credits, somebody. Michelle Hurd and Santiago Cabrera.
Yeah, I'll do it.
To co-star in Star Trek Jean-Luc Picard series on CBS All Access. CBS No Access is what they call it.
What's her name? Michelle Hurd? Ah, crap.
All right, she looks familiar.
Salvation star Santiago Cabrera is reuniting with Alex Klutzman's Secret Hideout / Bad Reboot in CBS Studios for co-starring role opposite Patrick Stewart in CBS All Access upcoming Star Trek series that will explore the next chapter of Jean-Luc Picard. Oh, she was on Blind Spot. Yeah. Blind Spot alumna Michelle Hurd will also co-star in the series produced by CBS TV Studios in association with Secret Hideout / Bad Reboot and Roddenberry Entertainment. Nobody cares. The new Untitled Star Trek series features Stewart reprising his iconic role as Picard, which he played for 7 seasons on Star Trek The Next Generation, as he takes on a new adventure.
I was in some movies too, you know.
You were. Yes, you were, Old Man Picard.
And I'm not talking about the Star Trek ones, all the X guy ones either.
No,
these were triple X guy ones.
X guy.
Giggity, 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 giggity. In a lot of things. This lady's been in a lot of things, but wait. Oh, I know her. She's from Ash vs. the Evil Dead.
I just wish we were back in the days where we would only hear of maybe one person in a Star Trek series instead of like everybody. I miss the unknown.
You saw the second season. Sorry. You said the second season of Ash vs. I think. Tom, you've seen it, right?
Most of it.
Well,
I have all 3.
She was the main. She was the Linda that was in the second season that kind of actually survives the season somehow.
All right.
She wasn't bad.
Yeah, people are saying he was in Heroes. She was also on SVU. So these aren't totally unknowns.
She's in a lot of TV shows, not really movies.
Well, okay. No details are being revealed about the characters Cabrera and Hurd are playing, but I hear Cabrera will play the pilot of Picard's ship, who is also a skillful thief. Hurd is what is it going to be? He's going to be looking for a Han Solo type. That's what it is. Hurd is playing a former intelligence officer who is a brilliant brilliant analyst with a terrific memory that has not been affected by her drug and alcohol abuse. She's playing a former. She's going to be an AA. What's going on? Cabrera was one of the most sought after actors for the pilots this season, who instead opted to do Star Trek series. He starred for 2 seasons on CBS summer thriller drama Salvation from Secret Reboot. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. I'm going to call him Secret Reboot now, okay? Instead of Secret Hideout, Secret Reboot. How about that? From Secret Reboot and CBS Studios. He also recurred on HBO's Big Little Lies and played Aramis in the BBC series The Three Musketeers. In features, Cabrera was recently seen in Transformers The Last Night. He is repped by APA principal. Oh, nobody cares. He's British, so UK's Conway Van Gelder Grant. Hurd, who played Shepard, Jane's and Roman's adoptive mother and leader of the terrorist group Sandstorm on NBC's drama Blind Spot, and also recently recurred on Fox's Lethal Weapon. She also had major recurring roles on Star's horror comedy Ash versus the Evil Dead. And in
Why
the
can't
Marvel,
it just be Riker?
well, there's a reason. Hold on. She also had a recurring. She was in Daredevil and Jessica Jones.
I guarantee because Riker's too white.
Probably. Heard will also next be seen in Justin Simeon's film Bad Hair alongside Vanessa Williams and Laverne Cox. Is rep by APA to Nobody Cares. Picard Star Trek series is executive produced by Klutzman, James Duff, Akiva Goldsman, Boo, Patrick Stewart, Michael Chabon, Heather Caden, Rod Roddenberry, and Trevor Roth, with Aaron Bayers of Secret Reboot serving as co-executive producer. Hanelle Culpepper will direct the first 2 episodes of the series, making her the first woman to direct a pilot or debut episode of the Starfleet series in the franchise's 53-year history. The show will also air exclusively on CBS All Access in the United States and will be distributed concurrently internationally by CBS Studios International. Boo fucking yeah.
Notice they didn't say Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this was brought up to me by one of my sources before this story came out, that this show was not being distributed internationally by Netflix.
Really?
So it will be on, so it will be on either some kind of CBS equivalent, I'm assuming, over there, or if they do have CBS in other areas. So over there, it will not be on because they don't have CBS All Access overseas yet.
CBS All Access is starting to branch out into different countries. I think they're going to be in Australia, but I don't think they're in Europe.
Well, yeah, but it's not going to nearly be the reach that Netflix has. But that's interesting because this is not going to Netflix. And rumor was, again, these are all rumors, but the first rumor was confirmed by this article. Rumor was Netflix wanted it bad.
Picard series, really?
CBS, yeah, and CBS, in retaliation for them not paying for season 2, said no.
Yeah, that's because this is the only one that people actually cared about. It has Picard. He's recognizable.
Exactly. This is a slam dunk. Unless the show is fucking wretched, there's no way this is not going to be a hit. You know, we keep talking about Star Trek Discovery. Well, they won't release any numbers for Discovery, but you watch. Picard, they fucking will.
Well,
because it will be a huge hit.
The thing is, though, from the character descriptions, is they're not making a Star Trek show. They're making Star Trek.
It'll draw in enough people for this year.
Yeah, I understand, but they're making Star Trek a Star Wars story show. You know, that's this is a pilot. It was a skillful thief. A freaking drug fueled former dropout, whatever she is. And I didn't pay attention. I was reading it. I didn't pay attention.
I know. It just sounds stupid. It doesn't even sound good.
You got to remember, though, only a select portion of the audience is going to be listening to people like us and reading articles like that. Most people, especially those who aren't even aware of Discovery's existence, are aware of the Picard show, and they will become aware of the Picard show, and they will watch the Picard show because they recognize Picard, and they will see it, and they'll be like, "Oh, I got to check that out." And then you got the audience that's just going to have to check it out just because it's going to be CBS All Access's biggest hit, guaranteed.
How blissful is an existence where you don't know about Star Trek Discovery?
Pretty good.
There's a few people I've talked to.
Yeah, there's a lot of Star Trek fans I've talked to in real life who don't know that Star Trek Discovery even exists.
Oh, really? There's another Star Trek show on?
Yeah.
Well, I told that story from the year it premiered about how I asked my cousins if they had seen it, and they actually had CBS All Access, and they were completely unaware of its existence. And my cousin was a huge old school Trek fan, so I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, but I've been watching that other show, the one with Seth MacFarlane. That shit's hilarious."
That's great. That's great. But like I said,
well, and then we ended up spending that year's Christmas party talking Orville the whole time too. And I had told my other cousin, who was completely unaware of Discovery, who he was the guy who actually got me into Star Trek originally. So But he's also one of those, he defends the JJ movies. So I kind of, this last Christmas, we had a little discussion about that.
Robert Meyer Burnett.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Only
Robert Meyer Burnett was saying on one of his live streams this weekend, he says the Picard series is probably going to take place within the JJ Alex Klutzman created continuity.
Well, which sucks because he was the person who was supposed to possibly stop by, but he is working. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted him to pop in to give his take on this, because this is, moving along faster now. They've got the money because we had been hearing for a long time, and that's the reason Star Trek Discovery hadn't been renewed yet, even though all of the other CBS All Access shows had been, was because they had not had any funding. But they did get some funding now. So this is why this is moving ahead. They're supposed to start in April, I believe. Wasn't it the case, Rob?
Yeah, they're supposed to start filming sometime this spring.
That is July they film. April they start with scripts and all the other stuff.
So they actually start production in July. Okay. But regardless, this was one thing where I always said, even in our private discussions where we were talking about funding and all that kind of stuff, I always said this was the one show, no matter what, was going to get funded because it's got Patrick Stewart attached to it. You're not going to sign on, even if it's in a producerial role as far as a contract, because we have various sources saying he's only signed on to a pay or play as a producer, not an actor. But he will be in the show. Of course, that's not what they're saying. What they're saying is if the show weren't to happen, he would get paid as a producer, not an actor. But regardless, this is all rumor and shit like that. So in the end, my whole point is you're not going to sign a contract with a 70-some-year-old guy who's as important and busy as Patrick Stewart, and then fuck around and not get the money somehow to make the show.
It still looks bad, though. It just looks like it's going to be so not Star Trek again.
I'm starting to get more of that impression, yes. The more and more we go along, this is just starting to sound like something that's not Star Trek.
Do they even know he's supposed to be French?
Like I said, from the character descriptions, I mean, all these like thieves and pilots and intelligence officers. I mean, there's nobody from Starfleet. There's nobody from Starfleet.
Star Wars-ish, yeah. When I interrupted you earlier, you were saying
mercenaries and everybody. I'm like, they're.
What are they casting? Rogue One?
Yeah, that's what they're casting. We need to, something tells me that they had this idea for a series and they just plugged Picard into it.
Maybe. Is anybody else going to make a cameo beside Picard?
Probably not. Didn't we hear Rod Meyer Burnett say that they don't have the rights to the TNG cast?
I don't think he said that. No, I don't think he said that because they do, but it has to be the 25% different version, like in the pre-2009 comic that Data and Picard were in.
Wait, so Geordi's not even going to have a visor now?
Oh, I have a feeling. Well, if we see anybody, it might be one or two cameos. But that's the thing. The way the story sounds like it's set up, that it's not going to really give itself a chance to run into anybody from the original series. You know, there's the whole problem with the whole breakdown of the rules and contract. We have just about every piece in place, but that gray area still is how Kurtzman got involved again and exactly how much has to be different for them to be able to profit from the merchandising. That's what it's all about, is the merchandising. Merchandising is, you know, as we all know. Mark C., thank you once again for a super chat, good sir. I gotta get my cha-ching up here.
I have my mic muted.
Yeah.
Did you hear my cha-ching after I muted my
mic?
No,
I didn't hear your cha-ching when you must have had the whole thing muted, not just your mic.
Okay. So all right. Muting the mic also mutes my cha-ching. Peg Leg Picard, the pirate makes Peg Leg Picard, the pirate make it so, me matey. Okay. What am I still screen sharing something? No, it's her participants. Okay. But anyway. yeah, like I said, I don't know. It fills me. It's the same it's same merry band of idiots that are doing this show. So, I have. Listen, I know we don't know we barely know anything about it, but I have no faith in Klutzman and his gang of and his gang of morons. I mean, really, he's already shown that he has no idea what he's doing. Why would suddenly he be able to turn it around now?
It's like expecting a guy who murdered 20 people to somehow change and not murder a 21st person. Like, I think you're living in a fantasy land.
Hey, I'm going to dinner at the Jeffrey Dahmer's house.
Yeah, it's like, Jeffrey, can you stop eating people? It's like, okay, I'll stop eating people. Just, can you step by my house later?
I'm not too worried. He said we're having a bunch of friends for dinner, so.
So Variety?
I was listening.
That was supposed.
I was listening to Sam. I was listening to Sam Kinison, today because there's a guy, geez, what's going on over there? The guy's got eating people. Some guy running down the street with ranch dressing on his ass. Oh my God! Somebody called 911. He's looking at my ass like it's a spare rib.
What's sad is that's almost a true story, and they ended up taking the guy back. Only he didn't have ranch dressing, but he did have a hole drilled in his head. And the cops took him back to Dahmer's house.
That's the worst part.
Oh, for God's sake.
It's like, we're not going to judge you for your kinky sex. Here's your guy back.
Oh, my God. Unbelievable. Well, anyway, that's oh God, how do we ever get there?
We don't want to go there. Well, because STD stuff is so freaking like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised if STD actually does a serial killer storyline at some point.
Oh, I already did. They have.
The
ganglia. They had the cannibal storyline already with the ganglia.
You look awfully tasty, Mr. Soru.
And I guess like what Evil Empress basically is a monster, so.
Yeah. Mark C, my last super chat is more effective when you read in a pirate voice, damn it. My Picard, the pirate, make it so, me matey. Okay, there you go.
I think he wants old man Picard to do it proper. Pegleg Picard the pirate. Make it so, me matey. How was that?
Bitch.
I can do it again. I can do it with more.
Do it with a little more oomph, more feeling, old man Picard.
Arr! How was that?
Pretty good.
Someone get me an eye patch. That will help.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do we have any more Star Trek news? Actually,
well,
they have
wow, he did show up, Mr.
Yay!
Robert.
Hey, Mr. Burnett. Thank you for joining us, sir.
I thought I would pop in.
You just had the tail end of the Picard news.
Yeah, see what you guys had to say.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I was saying. Sorry, Tom. Well, one of the things I was saying that, you know what this actually, and you actually kind of touched on it before. You know what Star Trek reminds me of? This incarnation, it reminds me of Glee. Now let me just explain that to you. So somebody once said to me, "How can you hate Glee because you're a musician and it's bringing music to people?" I said, "No, it's not bringing music to people because they're just taking things that you're already kind of familiar with and repackaging it in a more kind of banal sort of wrapper. So you recognize the reference, but you don't really understand what the substance is about."
I don't disagree with that.
Thank you. Hey, somebody gets what I'm saying. Thank you.
No, I it's really funny when I talked about that character description that was on the hashtag show, and lo and behold, they cast it. What, 2 days later? They cast two of the roles so far. I'm sure we're going to get the rest of the cast. I mean, what I thought was interesting about, and I said this on the show, was that it feels like a generic science fiction show. Like there's nothing in it that's really unique. It's an amalgamation of Star Wars and Firefly and The Expanse And I you know, aside from it'll be cool to see a Romulan regular on a Star Trek show. I mean, that interests me, but it doesn't feel like it's Star Trek. I mean, like I said, wouldn't it be cool if you had an Organian crew member? I mean, or something like that, or a Gorn crew member. I mean, that probably is too expensive to do, but you know, something along those lines. Explore the Star Trek, I don't know, canon, rather than make it seem like it's like a generic science fiction show.
Or even just like a Cation or something, you know?
Mecca was saying that the casting call sounded like Rogue One's casting call.
Right. That's what I mean. It's like every generic science fiction show now has to have like this group of ne'er-do-wells.
Yeah.
But
do you think they had the concept and they just kind of plugged Picard into it and with enough convincing they sort of convinced them, yeah, this is something we can really get you on board with?
Well, you know, I actually heard an interesting story from a very reputable source that when they originally had proposed doing the show, they were just going to bring the Borg back. The Borg have come back, and Picard has to go fight them. And thankfully, cooler heads prevailed, and they decided not to do that. But I think, you know, if you judging from Patrick Stewart off-roading in Nemesis, I think he kind of wants to be more of an action hero, kind of a character again. You know, when you're pushing 80, that's what you want to do. So, you know, they're going to make it's Star Wars Rebels or Star Wars Rogue One or Star Wars this or Star Wars that. You know, what bothers me. Here's what I think what's bothering me about a lot of science fiction media these days, and that it's not really delving into science fiction. Like what would human beings like? We're at the point. I've been watching with the promotion of Alita Battle Angel. There's a girl from the UK who she had meningitis and she lost her hands when she was very like a year and a half old, and they've made her these really 20th Century Fox paid to have these bionic limbs made for her, and they're really interesting. And one of the things about Battle Angel that's really interesting is that, you know, human beings are half cyborg. They can swap out their materials. I mean, we live in a world now where genetic splicing and CRISPR technology are here, and we've got tremendous bioethical conundrums facing us that we have yet to sort of tackle. And there are science fiction concepts that Star Trek should be really delving into the way Star Trek always used to. And you know, one of my problems with Discovery is that so much of it is just fantasy gobbledygook that it hampers my enjoyment, especially the whole thing about the mycelium network. I mean, none of that makes sense. There are not mushrooms. There's no mushrooms in space. And when you have mushroom land, that is the great thing about all the great science fiction writers. They would try and extrapolate on things that exist now, but what would they look like in hundreds of years hence? And they would talk about technology and all kinds of different things. And I feel like that the science fiction, we get that with The Expanse. I mean, I really appreciate, it's not totally accurate, but the scientific accuracy of the Expanse is somewhat plausible. And I feel like that's far more it's much more believable now than Star Trek is. And it's hard to sort of grasp what they're doing with Star Trek shows now. Like they're changing it into something that isn't Star Trek. And I know that they have to appeal to the mass audience, but Star Trek was never for the mass audience. It always was sort of a niche thing. So,
well, it almost kind of reminds me of like the initial when they made the pilot The Cage, and it was rejected by NBC. No, this is too cerebral.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they had to go back and redo it. We've come full circle to that, and not even so much as sort of the ethical, like biomechanical questions. Like you can even do something more mundane, like a commentary on anti-vaccinations. You know, the anti-vaccination movement, or even something like that too.
Oh, I agree, and it was the way the shows of the '60s, like we talked about before, The Twilight Zone and Star Trek, and how they dealt with these social issues that they couldn't. they couldn't address on other kinds of television shows. They could only do it in the confines of a science fiction or fantasy show because quote unquote real shows, they didn't want to offend people. They didn't want to get too political, but within the confines of Star Trek or the Twilight Zone, you could tell stories about racism or bigotry or how dangerous your neighbors could be in a pinch or things like that. And they just, I miss that. I mean, I'm curious to see, that's why I want to see the new CBS Twilight Zone series and see what they're going to do. Are they going to be confronting those kinds of social issues or not? And as Star Trek, it's really funny. I see a lot of people talking about how, oh, it's great that Spock is now dyslexic. He suffers from, a learning disability, and he's more relatable to me. And it just seems like they're demystifying all of our characters to the point of making them, they're no longer, there's a reason why the character of Spock endured. And I really think it's like Star Trek, now they're just mining everything. They're willy-nilly. There's not a lot of originality going on. They're just, let's see the Telosians, let's see Spock, let's see Sarek and Amanda. Let's have all of these things that we've already seen before. But hey, we're gonna change them all and turn them into the way we want them to be. Whereas I would much rather see characters that are new and situations that are new. I don't need you to go demystify a character I've loved for 50 years.
Right, and that was the appeal of the character to begin with. The same thing with like characters like superheroes that they keep messing with now, is that you weren't supposed to feel like you were relating to the character per se themselves. You looked up to them because they were either, in Spock's case, a mystifying alien we know nothing about, or Superman is the same thing, an alien with superpowers. We relate once in a while to their challenges and their other aspects of their life. We're not supposed to find them relatable just because, oh, I have the same learning disability that Spock does. No, that's not what makes them relatable. That's just kind of pandering to an audience in a way.
Well, I also find that who are they to do that to a character like Spock? The creative team is like, okay, we're going to go take this and change it all and make it better, make it more relatable. I mean, I'd rather see a writing staff create new characters and new situations that we haven't seen before that are not. It's almost like, you pick up a lot of, like, I read a lot of modern science fiction, and there's a book, it's by a guy named Peter Watts. It was nominated for a Hugo Award. It's called Blind Sight, and it came out in 2000. It was nominated for the Hugo in 2006, so I guess it came out in 2005 or 6. And it's a very interesting take on a first contact story, but the characters are really unique and really interesting, and the world that they inhabit it's just fascinating. And I'm like, why don't they take these things from a lot of modern, go back to the literary sort of origins of science fiction and make the show more literary? I feel like it's not speaking to intelligence anymore. Whereas I always felt growing up that Star Trek was a very intelligent show. It never punched down. It always punched up. And now I feel I'm in a way it's pandering to the audience, and I feel bad about that. I mean, it makes me feel like, why are you doing this? Whereas in other television shows, whether you look at something like a Breaking Bad or a Game of Thrones or like even UK's Bodyguard, shows are so smart and they're so well written these days. And Star Trek isn't, and it's frustrating.
It's frustrating for us too. Yeah, there's a lot of, God forbid, we pile on to Alex Kurtzman because, but there's this sort of this thinking that, and Mecca actually says repeatedly, Mecca, what do you always say about Star Trek Discovery? About who it's intended for?
I always think it's intended for like the 25-year-olds who are on their phone texting and not actually looking at the screen. You know, you've got your flashes of light and loud noises so they know when to look up. There's a whole bunch of stuff on the screen constantly so they can kind of come in and out and only really pay attention to the loud, flashy, important scenes. And I think that's part of why they do so much crap with the camera, why they strap it to an ADHD chihuahua, you know, half the time, because this is for people who can't sit still and look at a screen for 5 minutes.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a slow scene where people talk about things and contemplate, and it's shoot, die, fight.
Well, they do have slow scenes from time to time, like when there was Spock in the cave, but they have all that whisper acting. So that's the stuff you can kind of like get up, go to the bathroom, because, you know, we're streaming now. Everybody's streaming and they have the high end and they're getting rid of commercials and whatever. So they can like get up, do whatever they got to do, go get a snack, go talk to whoever, text something. And yeah, that it's just as mind-boggling how unimportant everything on screen in Discovery is.
Even first season, with the big war and the Federation's falling apart, they didn't care about the implications about what that meant or anything. It wasn't like the Dominion War storyline.
Yeah, there's no repercussions now. They built up the Klingon the Klingon War, whatever they called it. That's how forgettable it was. But there's like no aftermath of this massive interstellar conflict in season 2.
No, I mean, how many people died? Did billions of people die?
And all because of Michael Burnham.
I mean, it's such a strange thing. I mean, the way they deal with conflict in, say, Game of Thrones, how we've watched the political machinations of all of Westeros and who's doing what to whom, and there's all this really interesting geopolitical interplay that's going on there, and there's really I get no sense of the Federation. We don't. People just kind of come and go to Discovery like it's a hop in the park. Oh, I just came here from Vulcan, you know, because you can, and now I'm going back there. And if the Red Angel signals are so important, why are we not hearing about the rest of Starfleet being mobilized? Like, and what about these signals? Like, why does anybody care? I mean, is anybody really? What's okay? So the Red Angels. Yeah, the Red Angel signal brought you to this planet so you could save them from a catastrophe or whatever. But is that really what you're doing? I mean, the one ship, I guess because the Discovery is the only ship that could make the distance of 51,000 light years to Church Planet. But it just seems to me that I watch this, where all the religions live in peace, which that was something I would have come up with in my 7th grade extended learning program, my gifted children program. What if a church was whisked away and all of a sudden everybody who was in it decided to use all religions and write new scripture? It's so weird. Like, it would be more interesting if the alien was there and the alien was the one who was telling him what to write. You know, the Red Angel was literally the new voice of God for this, but they didn't. I don't know. It's just weird to me.
It's weird. It's weird to everybody. You're not alone.
Mm-hmm. We got to real quick. Yeah. David Deister says, "I hope that someone at CBS has a brain and fires Alex Kurtzman." I think he means Kurtzman, obviously, but yeah.
So he's got a law. He's got an ironclad contract. He's not going anywhere.
Pretty much, yeah.
No. But I was saying actually this past week that if you think that bringing in Michelle Paradise is going to make things any better, you are sorely mistaken. Yeah, okay, we haven't seen what she does, but she was actually executive producer on this most recent episode, and it was still hysterically bad. It really was. There were a few parts that, like, okay, this almost feels like Star Trek, but then they just, I don't know if they're writing to the beat sheet or what, but whatever they get right, they get 10 things wrong, like in the next scene. And you're just like, how is anybody like at the table read? Does anybody say, wait a minute, hold on, guys, I don't understand something here. I never worked in television. I was an extra on one movie. That was about it. But even I would say, I would have to ask questions. It doesn't seem like anybody's doing that.
Well, it's really interesting because they don't. television works when you have a really strong television is very much a writer producer's medium, as opposed to film, which is a director's medium. But the best TV shows, you have a really strong showrunner who basically has a vision for the whole series, and then the writing staff is following that vision. But for Discovery, the only person who really had a vision was Brian Fuller, and then he was let go. Right. And now there's all of these disparate ideas. It's not the product. What's interesting is it's not the product of a really strong showrunner that has a distinct vision for the show. And they keep bringing these people in to hopefully find. Star Trek: The Next Generation was a mess. It was even a mess in the 3rd season, but they brought Michael Piller in and things started to settle down. And then once you had the showrunners and under Berman, but it became a better show. But this show, it's like the people they're bringing in, where is the strong showrunner? Like, where is the veteran television producer that can come in and really put the screws to this show?
Yeah.
It's kind of like Poochie from The Simpsons. Everybody's got their own ideas, and it's just like this design by committee thing then.
It really feels that way. It really feels, because none of the episodes really deal head on with any particular. The storytelling is all over the place. I mean, hey, we're going to be down in the shuttle bay with Tilly trying to extract dark matter from something, and that's one story. And Star Trek has had A and B stories, but none of these stories really kind of work together. They're all working, and it's because I guess it's supposed to be episodic, but I don't have a sense of the narrative thrust, other than the fact there's this vague notion of these red angels out there doing all kinds of various things. I mean, I hope they know where they're going with this, because it doesn't feel like one episode leads into the other. It's strange.
Yeah. One thing I've always said that is, and we all kind of agree that Star Trek's its greatest strength was always its characters. And if they would just break away, and I think you've said this a couple of times, if they would just break away from Michael Burnham for a couple episodes and feature just somebody else, they've kind of done that with Saru, but they still have to have Michael Burnham tag along. But we can't name anybody else in the bridge crew. And if they would just, like I said, just take some of the focus away from Michael Burnham. But right now, everybody's just a cardboard cutout to be positioned so that she can come along and solve the problem. And we've actually run across like a Star Trek Discovery bingo card where, and this at the center square, Michael solves the problem. That's just like whatever is the problem. She's the Deus Ex Machina. Yeah.
Well, they've had how many regime changes now? If you don't count Brian Fuller, since the beginning, they've had at least 3 or 4.
5?
Right?
I think it's 5, according to an article I saw.
Well, yeah, I mean, look what happened to Saru's people. They could have been setting that up. I mean, that was a huge revelation about what was going on that planet, and that could have been a storyline that they didn't just set up in short treks and then pay off. That could have been hinted at from the very beginning. That by Saru leaving his planet, he was this evolution or reversion back to the way they used to be. Could have been something that was growing throughout the first season. They could have paid it off as a thread and really set it up. But it was done kind of so haphazardly. This seems like a pretty significant story, and they just do this massive sea change. Like, yeah, we're just gonna have them. They're gonna just evolve in an episode. Yeah, we're just gonna. Okay, but that could have been something they could have really built up to, and they could have really taken some time developing that story, and it could have been, I thought, far more interesting than it turned out to be.
I got to ask you this, Robert, because you've actually worked on shows and stuff. How normal is it within 20 episodes of a show, which isn't even a full season on most shows, to have 4 or 5 regime changes?
It's rough. I mean, I'll give you an example. Did you guys ever watch this show Designated Survivor? It was the Kiefer Sutherland show. Well, if you watch that show, Designated Survivor, I think, just from a viewing standpoint, the first 10 episodes of that show were, I thought, incredible. I called them airport reading. It's like when you buy a great paperback in an airport bookstore and you devour it on a cross-country flight. The first 10 episodes were incredible. as far as that goes, as far as airport reading, the conspiracy, the danger, and then they took this long hiatus. And then when they came back from the hiatus for the back half of the season, the show it had completely fallen apart, and it's because they had this regime change, and it was really interesting. It's a case study in how a television show can go completely awry. And I thought, wow. I thought watching the first 10 episodes, it might have been 9, it might have been 11, I'm not sure. But I was so into this show. I'm like, this show, these guys really know what they're doing. I mean, if you like conspiracy thrillers and you liked those kinds of movies and government machinations and terrorists and all kinds of, they're going to bomb the Capitol, Tom Clancy shit. And I was into it. And then the show just completely fell apart. And the back half of the first season was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. They even they killed one of their great core cast members for no reason at all. And I'm like, how is this allowed to happen? And I have a lot of friends that are television writers, and there is always jockeying for a position on these shows. And when they go over budget, when they're not well managed, this is what happens. And I think Star Trek also has the extra added pressure on it, in that it's supposed to be the cornerstone of CBS All Access. So, I mean, have you ever seen a show with more Facebook ads than Star Trek Discovery?
No. The second especially they even like doubled down on the ads, it seems like.
Yeah.
Every page I scroll through, almost every forum, I see it pop up. It's like, what the hell? Come on.
We get a ton of ads before our videos too for Star Trek.
Yeah, we always get a comment. Oh, we got a Star Trek Discovery ad before your video. So
I do too. I've been getting those. I think it's hilarious. I took a screen I took a screen cap of one, put it on my page. I was like, look who's advertising before my live streams.
We got to be careful, because then they might jump in and say, wait a minute, and we'll have a whole nother adpocalypse.
Right. But I just find it interesting. I mean, all of this, they get the Picard series. I mean, they're going to fast track that too. They're going to get it made and get it up, and again, it's got the same producing team. Kurtzman, Akiva Goldsman. It's the same
involved, yeah.
And everyone's the same. I mean, I think it's very funny, because now there's people are calling us alt trekkers and all this. I'm like, what are you? It's so weird. It's so bizarre that I don't begrudge anybody who likes Discovery. I really don't. But the storytelling on Discovery is not good storytelling. That's what I object to.
And I agree, as a quasi writer myself too. Yeah, we do have a couple super chats real quick here. We've got one from Apple Crow for $5. He says, Kurtzman's contract has one flaw, requiring me to spend any money on anything he's involved with. Note to execs, he's basically dead money to me. Oh, that's one way to look at it. If the fans don't pay, then it goes away. Wild Panther says, with $10, what the hell is going on? They're messing with sci-fi, Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars. Carrie is gone. They ruined, like Mark said, it. We'll never get to see those three together ever again. Marvel, ... So again, like, not going on, but yeah, I think that's off of what Mark Hamill's. I don't know when he said it, was like the other day or something like that, but there was reports and some more comments that he was kind of just displaying some disappointment in how things have kind of gone down in the Star Wars universe, I guess.
Well, you were saying, though, you don't begrudge anyone who likes Star Trek Discovery, but I'm just having a difficult time understanding what other people see in it. I'm like, explain this to me. Just explain, what is the appeal here, because I'm not getting it.
No, they don't explain it. No, they just come in and they're like, no, you're just not smart enough to get it, because they don't have a good argument for it. They'll say, oh, I like the special effects, or or no, if you don't know what's good about it, you're just not smart enough. And then they start with this name calling and basically fan bashing.
But the other thing too I've noticed is that there's this tearing down of the original series.
Yes.
In order to build Star Trek Discovery up. Well, that's old, and the monsters were terrible, and the sets were all plywood and cardboard. I'm like, well, yeah, but it's still work. It's not. That's all aesthetic details. The storytelling and the characters are what endures about it.
What's funny though? Sorry, I don't even think that's true. I mean, Star Trek was a beautifully produced show. It was also very expensive for the time. The fact that they were using blue screen photography for the ship shots, they had beautifully rendered paintings of the planets. I mean, Star Trek was an incredibly well produced show. It's just a different aesthetic. I mean, the time was different. It was just a different way to produce. I mean, you could actually shoot Star Trek. You could take all the same sets, all the same costumes. All you have to do is light it differently, and it would be fine. I mean, one of the things that people don't understand is that it's the aesthetics of TV. They didn't have a lot of handheld, the ability to hold handheld cameras. You know, they were all up on these dollies and they were all up on sticks, and they didn't have the kind of equipment they have now. And it just depends on how you shoot things, and it would be fine.
Well, and to support what you're saying, they wouldn't have cut the budget in the third season if it wasn't too expensive.
Right.
That's the whole point.
Exactly. And I just find it interesting that people are always complaining that way. I mean, you know, essentially people's homes have looked the same for 50 years. And if you're shooting a scene in a kitchen, someone's kitchen, or just a family kitchen, whether it was the Brady Bunch or whether it was Roseanne or whether it was somebody even on a show now, kitchens haven't changed much in 50 years. They look, I mean, maybe refrigerators went from being rounded to being rectangular, but they look pretty much the same. However, it depends. Lighting is very different. You know, the kind of we have faster films now. Now we've got digital. So, you know, you shoot in someone's kitchen, the way it looks more modern is by how it's shot and how it's lit. But kitchens pretty much look the same. And it depending on how you shoot the bridge set, you could absolutely shoot on the classic bridge set and make it look great. If you wanted to.
Yeah, a great example is, like you said, the lighting, everything things looking modern. So I always point to Raiders of the Lost Ark, how that's set in the mid 1930s, but yet it looks modern because of the lighting and everything else. You know, if you take a few cues from those, I mean, there's no reason why that Enterprise bridge can't look modern by today's standards.
Right, and that's what drives me crazy. I mean, when I was working on the Axonar project and I was storyboarding and developing how we were going to shoot, you know, you basically have this classic bridge, and I mean, the way it's been finished, I wouldn't have finished it that way, but it would have looked great. All the classic stuff. I mean, and it just depends how you shoot it and how you light it. And the fact that I do like the fact that Discovery is being shot widescreen now. I mean, it's very cinematic, but they've gone way overboard. I mean, why is the camera moving? There's all this unmotivated camera moving just to like give it some hipster aesthetic. Oh, let's keep everybody, like you said, Mecca, let's keep everybody entranced with the moving camera. So they miss the fact that the story being told doesn't make any sense at all. There's no semblance of science. There's no semblance of reality.
That goes right into our super chat from All Panther for $5. Says, Random's right about the ADHD crowd. Like going to Giants new park in 2000. Yuppies telling me to stop cheering for my team on their phones, not watching. Well, that's crazy. Pay for good money to go see a live game and then sit on your phone. That's not smart.
Well, I've been to concerts where people have done that, and I've been to especially movies. Movies are really terrible for that.
You know, I'm a bit worried about that as well because where I work, they had a TV on one day and they were playing The Cage, or not The Cage, Arena, excuse me, and everyone was kind of laughing at it. I'm like, I know Gorn doesn't look great, but the actual philosophy behind the episode is really well written, and nobody cared. They just laughed at the creature and just moved on.
Well, I think Star Trek, especially the original series, has now transcended within our pop culture memory. The way there's a lot of people that just have never seen the original series, and their only understanding of Star Trek is, I call it the Simpsons effect. Once the Simpsons has done a parody of something, then the original has been completely diminished in pop culture history, whether it's Star Trek, whether it's the original Planet of the Apes, whatever. And once we live in our hipster, postmodern, snarky pop culture realm where most people can't even go back and watch the original series and give it a fair shake. It's like I always say on my show, if you've been born in an era where Jurassic Park was the first movie you ever saw that had giant dinosaurs in it, photorealistic, beautifully rendered dinosaurs. You will never be able to go back and watch, say, a Ray Harryhausen movie like The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms or Jason and the Argonauts and appreciate, or Valley of the Guanji, and appreciate a stop motion dinosaur or a Godzilla movie. Yeah, King Kong. You can't. You'll never. Your mind is. You have to train your mind to be able to go back and do that. And what's interesting is that when I was a kid, there was not, pop culture has doubled pretty much in the time that I've been alive. So there's twice as much now, if not 4 or 5 times as much now as there was when I was a kid. When I was a kid, there was only the original series and the animated series. That was it. That's what Star Trek was. And when Star Trek the Motion Picture came out, it was mind-boggling. I mean, the fact that they brought back all the characters and they set it, you know, in continuity, and they accounted for the missing years in the film, and they had updated the Enterprise, and it looked incredible, and they understood the internal layout of the ship and how everything worked out and all of that. And the only question people had was, well, are those really Klingons? And then, of course, that question was answered by numerous people. I mean, the idea that there was this Imperial Klingon race that we had never seen before. You know, there was all kinds of explanations, but nobody. Now people go back and use it as a, well, Star Trek hasn't always had canon. There was always canon issues.
But they always tried to make sure to, sorry, I was going to say, they always tried to make sure they explained it, though, later on when they could.
Right, and the idea of it never bothered me that you saw Klingons speaking their native tongue in Star Trek the Motion Picture, and you saw them in updated starships. I mean, that kind of thing never bothered me. But there's this thinking, like, for instance, if you read Greg Cox's Khan novels, and there was this idea that the eugenics wars, they had to figure out, well, how come the eugenics wars never took place in our reality? So let's explain how they could have. And I always thought it was so weird that there, even as a kid, I understood that the future in Star Trek was not our future. It was an alternative fictional future. And we saw, like, there were, obviously we had similar backgrounds, but it wasn't our future. So the fact that our technology developed on a different pace than the technology of the Star Trek universe, and I always go back and go, look at Blade Runner. The first Blade Runner is an analog future. And when they made Blade Runner 2049, they made the decision to think, okay, well, yes, cell phones and the computer technology that has existed in the 35 years since the original movie came out, we're not going to go that route. We're not going to say, okay, well, we're going to try and make it more like our future. No, they're like, we're going to extrapolate on the Blade Runner future as it was portrayed in the 82 film, and we're going to go that route. That was clearly an analog future. And while they did have flying cars and things like that, clearly their computer technology wasn't nearly as sophisticated as ours was in the real world, and nobody cared. Blade Runner 2049 still works, and the future portrayed still works, and it feels of a piece of Blade Runner the same way that Star Trek the Motion Picture does. I mean, they make a big deal. The Enterprise has been refitted and it's sleek, but it's still recognizably the Enterprise. The technology is the same. Warp drive is the same. You know, so the communicators fit on your wrists or something. I mean, it made it, what people forget is, like, as a huge Star Trek fan going into the theater to see Star Trek the Motion Picture, it was wondrous. And I never thought to myself, well, this doesn't feel like canon to me, because it was so new and big and different, but yet still the same. The characters were the same. The fact that they had the same actors come back and play themselves and were able to, not quite, but pretty close to real time. That was a big deal. That had never really been done before. To bring back a TV cast into a big budget movie and then include the time that it had passed since the TV series had gone off the air. I mean, that was a really groundbreaking thing. And that was really the beginning. The real beginning of Star Trek canon was Star Trek the Motion Picture, because you believed that it was the same. It was of a piece. You'd never seen Earth of the 23rd century in Star Trek before. And in Star Trek the Motion Picture, you see it. You know, you only saw one little sliver of Vulcan. And then when we went and saw the Vulcan Masters and they shot at Yosemite and you saw Spock out there training, that felt like this is the big budget version of Vulcan, but it felt like it was truly Vulcan. You didn't go like, oh, this doesn't feel like Vulcan. It was the Vulcan you hadn't seen before. And Star Trek canon was sort of born in my mind with Star Trek: The Motion Picture, because it took you into the future of the Star Trek universe where things were different, but still familiar. You never went to yourself, that doesn't feel right. It felt right. And then they did the same thing with Star Trek 2. They redesigned the uniforms, but the Enterprise had gone on another 5-year mission and come back, and now it was like 10 years later or something. It just felt it kept moving forward. Same was true of Next Generation and Discovery. It's the first time a Star Trek show has had no shred or semblance of real connection to anything that came before it. And I think that's what's so disconcerting. None of it feels like it's a part of Star Trek canon. And indeed, I guess it's not.
Yeah, for a show called Discovery, there's no sense of wonder or discovery. It just fights, and that's...
And now it's going back and denigrating, we're going to see the Telosians again. Great. Well, now, why do you have to do that? Why do you then have to go back and change one of the great cornerstone episodes of the original series, the Menagerie Parts 1 and 2? Forget that, because, until people knew or could see the cage in the 80s, it was the Menagerie. And the Menagerie is probably the greatest, besides Star Trek: The Motion Picture, the Menagerie is our first indication of true Star Trek canon, showing us the evolution of the Enterprise, showing us the evolution of the costumes, the characters, all of those things. And it created what you're watching is from 11 years ago. And that was mind-blowing. I remember when I was a kid, I'm like, oh my God, there was other people on the Enterprise, but it was still there. It's just changed in 10 years. The way people change, and it felt real. Hey, I have to jump off, you guys. I just want to come say hello. I'm sorry I've been talking behind you.
Oh, nothing.
No, it's an honor to have you on this long. So
I'm going to go do my own live broadcast, and I haven't.
All right, well, we'll wrap up here now. Hopefully, I'll join you over there in the chat and say hi. So
yeah, because I have another good topic that my friend Norman Lau, he always suggests these very heady fanboy topics that I love to discuss.
So yeah, definitely everybody jump over to the Burnett Network. Yes. Burnett Work, if I could talk. The Burnett Work. We'll put the link in the chat there. And if you haven't subscribed already, definitely do. That's Rob's personal channel over there on YouTube. Well, where you're at right now, over there. What am I talking about? Anyway, thank you so much for your time, Robert. It's been a pleasure to have you as always.
Yeah, thanks. I like coming here because people are like, your channel is very divisive, and I love it. I love it. I love people. I love stirring up the shit, and it's I'm like, we all love Star Trek. So
well, we redropped your interview. Have you heard anything back about it? I've heard it stirred some pots.
No, but I'll tell you something. That interview, my subscribers on YouTube jumped by like 200 today.
Great.
Wow. So it had to have been because of your interview.
Well, it's doing much better than the original version, and I think cutting it up and putting it like our normal kind of interviews helped a little bit. So
yeah, well, no,
the production value helped and stuff.
Thanks for driving people to my my YouTube channel. I appreciate it.
Well, hopefully we'll get a few more here. Maybe there's a few people in our audience right now who haven't jumped over there and subscribed. So if you haven't, do so. And we're going to sign off here so you guys can check out Rob. And Rob, our other Rob, why don't you take us out?
Yes, if you like what we do here, please click subscribe, click the bell icon. That way you're notified of all the latest content. If you really like what we do, head on over to Patreon. You can click like, subscribe on the main channel, and when you head over to Patreon, you can support the channel for as little as $1 a month. Bloopers, outtakes, lost episodes, behind the edge making videos, my 10-minute stand-up set, and more. And if you don't have the means to subscribe on Patreon, then please subscribe here on YouTube. Head over to Mr. Burnett's channel, subscribe there, and share with your friends, because we cannot do this without you. Mecca, tell about yourself.
I am Mecha Random 42. I complain about Captain Marvel and Star Trek Discovery and all the crazy stuff going on in Hollywood and entertainment and stuff. And yeah, I have my own channel. I have Patreon, Twitter. You can follow me on Twitch. Sometimes I do gaming streams. And yeah, I'm over here all the time.
Tyler?
Well, I'm Tyler, Bioshock Infinite W. Sorry, I'm doing the wrong sign-off thing. It's another podcast. Well, if you ever want to see me, I'm in the Facebook group. I got my own podcast called the Peanut Butter Podcast. And hopefully one day I'll be a panelist on the Rob Sex Talk Show.
Like, we gonna invite your aunt?
Yes. I found out today she actually is a fan of Nina Hartley as well.
There you go.
Who isn't a fan of Nina Hartley?
But we got Robert Burnett once again for taking out some time to hop on the stream. He has so much to do and so little time to spare. So the fact that time out to hop on and talk some Star Trek is just awesome. So definitely do check out his channel. He's about to go live. So
yes, everybody hop on over to Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett's channel. We'll check out the stream there. And everybody, thank you for joining us. And one more time, Shazam! I'm riding that for all it's worth.
You did a good job,
everybody. Yeah. Hey, Mixcraft is a good program. They're not paying me to say that. Mixcraft is a good program. Hey, everybody. Okay. There's the music. Thank you for joining us. We'll catch you next time.
Please. Get off my back! Bitch! You're a whore.
We gotta take
Damn it, stop hitting me!